are new here. If you're returning for another video, thank you guys so much. I'm super excited that you are all joining me. And in this episode, as you can tell by the title, we are going to be talking about self-sacrifice. So I'm specifically talking to those people who are the welcome mats of their relationships. Whether it's family, friends, romantic, whatever the case is, I'm talking to you. I want to go over some signs that you may be sacrificing way too much, as well as, of course, tips on how to be able to break out of those things and put yourself in a much healthier state of mind, not only for your relationships, but for your own mental. But before we do so, if you haven't already, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notifications. That way you do not miss any future videos to come from my channel. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this video. So as I mentioned, again, I'm talking to those people who are literally laid out and sprawled out on the floor as a welcome mat over your body. I'm talking to those people who sacrifice entirely too much, and you put yourself in a very, very unhealthy state of mind for, again, yourself and your relationships. So what are some signs that you're just doing way too much when it comes to sacrificing? We're going to go down my list. Of course, per usual, I do have my notes out. I just love to do that just to make sure I don't miss anything. So we're going to go ahead and get into these tips. So the first one is you are exhausted. And I don't just mean you're tired and you want to sleep. That is a huge sign of it, but you're emotionally exhausted, you're mentally exhausted, your spirit is exhausted, you're physically exhausted. You're just tired because you're wearing yourself out from all the sacrifices that you're doing for your neighbor, for your cousins, for your siblings, for your parents, for your romantic relationship, your friends, your coworkers, all these people. You are sacrificing so much and you're putting so much energy and time that you are literally physically wearing yourself out. Number two, the second thing to be mindful of is that the people who you are sacrificing for would not do the same for you. And I know for myself personally, I've experienced that. I'm sure that as I'm saying this, you think about it. There are plenty of people who will take and take and take because that's what you're providing for them, but they wouldn't do the same for you. So be mindful of that, as that's another huge sign that you are sacrificing entirely too much. Number three, and this is a huge one, when you are sacrificing for other people, you forget about yourself. And that is entirely and unfortunately too honest and too often occurring. So you're forgetting about yourself. You're forgetting about the things that you like. You're forgetting about your hopes and your dreams and what makes you happy and what helps you grow. And you are putting those things on the back burner because you are so busy giving here and giving there, and people are taking here and they're taking there. You're not feeding yourself. You're not feeding your soul. Maybe you're not going to the gym anymore because you don't have time because you're sacrificing so much, or you didn't go to school because you have to help support these people, or you can't do this, or you're not doing your hobby because you have to make sure you have time for these people and to do these things. And you are literally self-exhausting yourself to the point where you're disappearing. Your own well-being and your own self-care and the things that you enjoy and you love and that matter to you are gone now because you're so busy putting it and putting your energy and time in other places. So don't lose yourself. And to break off of this, I love the airplane example. So I'm going to share this. I don't know if you've heard this example before, but anytime you get on a plane and the flight attendants are going down their list of do's and don'ts and how to buckle up and stuff like that, they do talk about when the masks were to come down. So if you were to get in an accident or you're plummeting or whatever the case is, and your oxygen masks release, they will literally tell you that you need to put your mask on first before you put on somebody else's. And I remember hearing about this so much, and I was like, well, that doesn't make any damn sense. Why am I going to put somebody else's mask? Why wouldn't I put their mask on first to help them? And the reality is, if you are trying to put somebody else's mask on, you're literally sitting here dying. You're already in a weak place. You can barely breathe. You can barely do anything your own self. So how can you help this person? How can that be effective? It's not. And you're going to end up both dying because you're literally trying to put this mask on somebody else before you help yourself. And that is a huge example that I love when it comes to, when you're sacrificing so much, you're sacrificing yourself. You're making yourself weak. You're helping from a weaker standpoint, and you haven't put that oxygen mask on yourself first to make sure you are fueled and you are alive and you are taken care of. So when you do that and you put your mask on yourself first, you are able to help other people because you're doing it from a less weaker standpoint. You're doing it from a stronger standpoint. Now you can help other people because now you're safe and now you're protected and you have the energy and you have the time and all those things to be able to do things. to help and to sacrifice where it is necessary. Another sign is that your relationships are holding you back. So whether that is romantic or non-romantic, the relationships that you are in are holding you back from being yourself. And again, that goes to, the part where I mentioned about being able to be yourself, because you're being held back from that. You can't even be your true self because of the sacrifices that you are making. And alongside that, you are sabotaging other relationships. So if you're sacrificing so much for, your relationship romantically, or for your family, or for your friends, whatever the case is, somewhere that means you're not feeding these other relationships. You're not feeding these other important things in your life. So you're sacrificing those. You're self-sabotaging those other things because you're pouring so much energy and so much sacrifices are going into this thing that you forgot this thing. So often we tend to do that, where we are literally sabotaging other relationships, whether again it's romantic or not, because you are giving way too much to something else and not even giving the smallest amount into these other relationships. And that happens often. I know a lot of the times, like when people get in relationships, they forget about their friends, or when people are so close with their family, they forget about their romantic relationships, or whatever the case is. So that happens very, very often. And it's definitely one of those things to be mindful of, that you are sacrificing entirely too much. And to connect to this, you are allowing other people's opinions or their decisions to determine what you do. So maybe we're looking for approval from family, or we're looking for approval from our best friends, or from our, coworkers, or whatever the case is, that we are literally allowing them to dictate our decisions. And that is a huge sign that you're sacrificing too much. You're literally sacrificing your own thought, your own brain, your own heart for their opinion and for what they think the decision should be. So obviously be mindful of that as well. That is a huge one, and I see that way too often. You have a hard time saying no, and I can say I'm definitely guilty of this one. I've had to learn to set those boundaries because I like to help people. So when you're in this state of mind, you tend to want to help people all the time, which means you don't say no, which goes back to the first point of you become exhausted because you are doing entirely too much, since you cannot just learn to say no. I can't do this, or I can't take this on, or I'm not capable of this. Instead, because you want to give and you want to give and you want to give, you're literally exhausting yourself. So learn to say no, and that is also on the tips as well. And then the last one is you have a hard time accepting help from others. This is another one that I personally have been very guilty of. And one thing that I know my mom always taught me was, just the same way that we like to sacrifice and we like to help people, other people also like to help us. If they ask if they can help financially, or if they ask if they can come over and help make dinner, or whatever the case is, that is their way of showing that they love and care about you. And that is their way of helping and making sure that you are okay. So I had to really, still learning this, but learn that, that it's okay to say yes and to accept help from other people, because they just want to do the same thing we're trying to do, and they're trying to help. So it is another sign that you're sacrificing yourself if you don't allow other people to help you. So I just went over the signs that you are sacrificing too much. And of course with that, I want to go over the tips on how to make sure you stop doing so, and make sure you're able to be in a healthier space in your life. So my first step for that would be to really consider your give and take ratio. Are you giving more than you are receiving? And I mean that in the sense of your relationships that you are giving to. Are you giving entirely too much to a relationship that's not giving you the same energy and return? And if that's the case, you really need to step back and reconsider those relationships, because again, you're not having a fair relationship. You're having something where you're giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, and this person is taking and taking, and then they'll give a little bit, and then they'll take and take and take, and it's not fair. It's not an even playing ground. So those are some things that you really, really should consider when you are looking at your relationships. Well, of course, with that means having those uncomfortable conversations to be able to establish your boundaries. So unfortunately, sometimes the sacrifices are being made with family. They're being made with your really close friends or with your romantic relationships. So those conversations can get a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. They can be awkward, they can be unfun, but it's important to make sure you can set aside your pride and your nervousness and all these things to have those uncomfortable conversations, to be able to set those boundaries, to be able to let them know, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this Monday through Friday, but I can help out Monday and Tuesday, or whatever the case is. set those boundaries. If the plan that you are doing is not working, find another plan. Find another way that you can help out if you must help, or find another way that you can move forward. Find another plan. Figure something else out. If what you're doing is not working, how can we adjust this? How can we fix this to make sure I'm not doing entirely too much, or you're not doing entirely too much, and the sacrifice is either even or it's just not necessary, so let's work around this. Find another plan. Focus on self-care. So as I mentioned, if you liked going to the gym, get your butt back in the gym. If you like cooking, make sure you're cooking. If you want to go to school, go to school. Focus on yourself. Again, if you do not have that oxygen mask on yourself first, you cannot help other people. So you have to make time. You have to figure out a way to love yourself, take care of yourself, do the things that you love and that make you happy. That way you can help other people where it is necessary and where you can, where you have the time and when you have the energy. So focus on your self-love. I know like on the days that I don't have my daughter, and it'll be like one Friday, so every other Friday or something, I always spend that first night that Friday, I'll do face masks, I make sure I do my hair, I make sure I'm just have a glass of wine, I watch movies, I'll read a book, whatever makes me feel good. That way I can reset my energy, I focus on myself, I take time on myself, and then I'm good to go Saturday morning for whatever needs to be done for the future. So focus on yourself. Next one is really consider, are these sacrifices making you resent the people in your life? And if that's the case, then you need to really, really take a step back. So when you think about the person and the thing that they're having you do or the things that they're having you do, are you being resentful? Do you find yourself being angry or hateful? Do you find yourself telling your friends or your family about these things that this person's doing to you? And if the answer to that is yes, then take a step back before you absolutely ruin that relationship. Just remember that it isn't your job, okay? So sacrificing is a great thing, and it's something that I do personally believe we are put on this earth to do. I do believe we are meant to help each other and be there for each other, and yes, we are meant to sacrifice some things about our life, of course, if there's healthy boundaries. However, it's not your job, okay? So people expect you to sacrifice for them. Sometimes they expect you to do these things for them because they're used to it, and I think we get used to it, so we continue to do it. But it's important to remember that it's not your job, okay? You don't have to do it. You're not responsible for these things that you are doing. So remembering that helps you be able to set those boundaries. It helps you be able to say no, which is my next step, is learning when to say no. If you can't do it, you don't have time to do it, you don't have the energy to do it, then you just say no. You don't do it. And that is part of remembering that it's not your job. So you don't have to. You're not obligated to do these things. And then the last one is just learn to accept help. As I mentioned before, if somebody is willing to help you and wants to help you, learn to be okay with that. Learn to say, yep, I think I'll be able to take the help this time, and put your pride to the side, put all those things to the side, and learn to accept that help. Look, I'm going to be very honest with you. I know that when you're the welcome mat of your relationships, this is kind of something that's embedded in you, and I think a lot of people suffer with this thing. We all suffer with wanting to help and learning how to set those boundaries, and that's a very common thing. This isn't uncommon, and that's why I wanted to do this video, because I want to be truthful and honest with you that even though, like I said, it is okay to sacrifice where you can, it is something that can exhaust you, and it can make you very resentful, it can make you very hateful, it can make you ruin relationships. So I wanted to do this video for that very reason. I wanted to help you, and I hope it helps, set aside all these things and learn how to set boundaries, learn how to take care of yourself, learn how to re-examine the relationships that you are sacrificing in. That way you can be in a better mental state of mind. Again, I hope that this video helped you guys. Please drop any comments that you may have, whether it's advice or more tips or signs or what you've done in your past, so that way we can continue to learn from each other. And again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notifications. I hope that you guys always remember that you are loved, you matter deeply, you are heard, you are seen. I love you guys, and I will talk to you guys next week. Have a great day.